We're going to take a tour quickly of the DTR900 head assembly. As we're going down the line here, we'll have our cameraman pan us to the right a little bit. So this first thing here is basically a particle remover. So your digital tape has particles on it, oxide particles that do fall off occasionally, especially on older tapes. What this does is it basically lightly scrapes the tape. It's a bunch of little holes perforated in here, which means it gets very dirty because oxide comes off in them, so it needs to be clean. But as I go down the line here, anyhow, so the first one's basically the scraper. The next is the sync head, which is basically a pre-read head. It has basically all 40 channels of data on it, even though it's for 32 channels of digital audio. The next is a tape lifter, which does come out when you're in fast wind. The next is an erase head, 40 tracks. There's a guide, which needs to be cleaned. This is a record head, 40 tracks. A lifter, which comes out to lift the tape off when you're in fast wind. And then the last is a repro head, which is the final reproduce head for playing back, also 40 tracks. And then there's one more guide at the end, which needs to be cleaned. So we'll pull the camera back from here and we'll go through a cleaning process on the heads. So we're going to take you on a lesson of how to clean this thing properly. Because the DTR900 has ferrous heads, these are actually ferrite heads, they're very sensitive to being chipped, so the last thing you want to do is put anything metal in this area. So when you want to clean anything in the tape path, there's really only two things you want to use. A business card, a nice paper business card, and this nice either tech wipe or whatever material this is. Cottonous material. The most important thing in the path are first to clean these rollers. These are the drive rollers. I'd say if you clean them maybe once a month, it would be okay. You don't have to do it for every roll, but just once a month. 99 or 100% isopropyl alcohol. Just douche it on there, get a good amount of it. And I'm actually holding it on the roller and spinning the roller. As you can see, I already picked up some dirt, and I just cleaned this unit about 2 hours ago, and I've only ran 2 reels of tape on it. And I'm also going to go vertically. I'm actually going up as well as around. So I'm spinning the roller and going up. Picked up some more, blow it, make it dry, spin it, and you're done with that roller. We'll do the same thing on the capstan roller on the other side. A little dirt, go vertical, and that's it. Let it run, blow it off, make sure it's dry. You definitely don't want to put tape on this when these are wet, so make sure that these rollers are always dry. Okay, so the next thing is you definitely want to clean these metal rollers, 1, 2, 3, and 4. The easiest way to clean them is with the same cleaning material with the alcohol, but before you do it, this is where a business card is handy. If you just take a business card and you put it on this ankle and you spin the roller like that. First I use the edge of it, and then I use the very end down here like this, and then like that. And do the same thing on the top. There actually is a little undercut when the roller comes down that goes in and then back out, and that's where you're actually sticking this in. And if there's dirt up there, as a matter of fact, you can see the dirt right there on the edge of the card. There's a little black dot. That dot came out of that roller. So that's why it's good to actually use the edge of the card before you use the alcohol process. That gets the stuff out before you can clean it. So I'll use a different portion of the card. We'll do the next one. Tip, bottom, tip.
There we go.
So we're continuing on here. We're going to go to the right side, and we'll use the corner of the card on that. Do the same thing to the top. Hold it at about a 45-degree angle like that. And then use the corner of the card. You can even bend it if you want to get it up there. And look at all that stuff. All that dark crap. Okay, and then the last roller. Corner, up above, and a little corner. Okay, so great way to destroy a card, but that's the whole point. Okay, next we'll go ahead and put the alcohol on the material here, and same thing, I'm actually holding it to the top of the roller, which will get this stuff out of that corner that I just loosened up with the business card. And there's the stuff right there. Pretty amazing, huh? So I don't need to change the cleaning material. We'll just keep going down the line and use the same material on the rollers. Look at all that stuff that's coming off. You do the same thing on this one. You're spinning the roller, little surface, bottom, little surface. Keep spinning it, that dries it out. You can see this material is getting pretty dirty. And I've only run 2 reels of tape on this, and they're not old tapes, which just goes to show that when you're running library or old archive tapes, you're probably going to have to clean it more often. So even though I said you only have to really clean these 2 drive rollers once a month, that's absolutely, they've got to be done minimum at least once a month. But if you're putting sticky tapes and tapes that are losing particles all the time, and you've got a mess of oxide on the deck because you're using tapes that are losing oxide, then you really should clean these more often. But these metal rollers, absolutely, I would do every reel of tape. Any new reel of tape you put up here, you got to clean these rollers.
There we go.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and clean these tape guides as we're going through the tape path. And again, once again, I'm using a business card, either a tech wipe or basically a cottonous material. The only problem with the cottonous material is you can leave lint, so just make sure that whatever lint you're leaving in there, that it comes out so it doesn't get in the tape path. And then of course isopropyl alcohol is pure as possible, 99 or 100%. So this first thing we talked about is being a scraping device. Basically it does not spin, so it's just solid. Again, business card, the first thing you want to do is get a business card in there and scrape along the bottom of it, just to make absolutely sure that there's no oxide being stuck down there. And as you can see, there already is some on that card, so obviously I did get some off. And then I would basically just kind of do the same thing to the front, just scrape it up, and then the very top of the guide using the edge and the side of the card. And by doing that, we've done the same thing we did on the rollers. Other than that, I would do the same thing to these tape guides, the solid guides. I'm not doing it to the heads, just these guides. And by doing this, I try to use a nice solid card, even though this is a Disney card. Use a nice solid business card to do this. Not a credit card. Credit cards are too thick. Business cards tend to be just thin enough to fit in there. You can also use dental floss. Dental floss is a good material to use because it's thin enough. But unfortunately, if your head stack is on here and your cover is very difficult to get dental floss in. So that's why a business card seems to be a great way to do it. All right, so we're going to come back with this piece of cleaning material, or in this case, the cottonous material or a tech wipe. And we're going to do the same thing we did before on the rollers, except I can't spin these. So all you can do is get your finger in there, go vertical on it, pick up the bottom, and looks pretty clean, so not much came off. And I'm going to do just the guides right now only. So there's 3 guides. That's the left side, the center, and the right. And the only reason is because we just cleaned them, so we might as well get the particles off that we pulled out. And that one had a little bit on it, so not too bad. The next thing is the heads. We have the 4 heads we talked about. Many people say on ferrite heads not to go up and down. And the reason why is because there's ceramic materials in there that are holding the head together. It's basically an epoxy. So there's epoxy holding the gaps in place, just like they would on a normal metal head. But because it's a ferrite head and it's very pointy in the front, it's very, very pointy. The thing is that because it's so pointy, I recommend not going vertical. You can go lightly vertical once, but I would actually go left, just not left, right, like rubbing it, but actually just a little from right to left, and then maybe turn the thing over, turn your cloth over, and go from left to right. Very lightly. You don't have to push too hard. And when you're done, then go very lightly, don't push hard at all, and just pick up the residue you just cleaned off. That's the recommendation. The reason being is it's a very sensitive head, if you had to replace these heads, it's $40,000 for a head assembly, and nobody wants their paycheck debited $40,000.
Okay.
So the last thing in the head assembly, we've got a little light in here now so you can see, are these tape lifters. And there's nothing special about them. It's just like a normal basic tape lifter you see on any MTR-90 or many other tape machines. Just get in there and give it some vertical action, a little horizontal action, and just like anything else, make sure it's dry before you put tape on the machine. And that's it. And if for any reason you stick your little fingernail down there and you feel the edge and it feels really, really sharp, you probably should get your engineer out to replace your lifters, because you don't want it scratching the tape when it's in fast wind. And that's it for cleaning the heads.
Good.
So before you load up a tape on the machine, it's always good to do one thing that I always suggest, and that is go ahead and sauce up one more of these little cleaning tech wipes or materials such, and wipe down the surface on the tape path. And the reason why, and a lot of people say, well, why am I doing this? It seems pretty mundane to have to constantly clean the tape path. But I'll tell you what, even though you never use an edit block anymore, I doubt, unless you're breaking the tape, the reason why we do this is because, of course, it keeps the machine looking beautiful, because after all, these were $250,000 tape machines. But just take a look what I just took off the machine. Does that say anything? It's not just dust and dirt. It's all the stickum material. It's the binder off the back of the tape, which actually has residue. It also has the particles off the back of the tape. And the important thing is, it's not just to keep the machine clean, but every bit of particles that are sitting on the surface, as I start threading this tape into the tape path, those particles are in there. And as you do the tape path, you're basically scraping the tape as you're bringing it up. So you're bringing those particles right into those heads. And since digital is such a even though it's a robust format, and we'll talk about the error codes in a moment, you want to keep your fingers from being on this side of the tape, which is going to be against the heads. And you also want to keep the dust particles and all this gunk from getting to this side, which is against the heads. So we've cleaned the heads, we've cleaned the rollers, now we've cleaned the surface across the tape path, and now we can actually start threading the tape. And don't worry about that little squeaky sound, it's just the brakes on the motors, which they totally disengage themselves the moment you load it up. So we're loaded up, and as you can see, there's no more squeaking sound, so we're ready to actually start using it.